Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice podcast, your inside connection to outdoor legislation. From the Beltway to policy happening your way, we're covering it all. I'm your host, Fred Bird. Join us as we explore public land access, wildlife and fisheries management, Second Amendment rights, the triumphs that shape our nation, the sports we all love, and the stories that fuel our passion for the great outdoors. This is the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this feature episode of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Excited to bring this one to you guys. We went out to Las Vegas there to SHOT Show. Our friends and partners at NSSF put on one hell of a show. Holy smokes, we'll get into that. The focus here being though is a focus on our Governor Sportsman's Caucus. Had the opportunity to catch up with our newest chair of the GSC, Governor of Montana, Greg Gianforte. Sit down with him. NSSF put on this great governor's panel. Governor Gianforte was a part of that panel. He had Governor Lombardo from Nevada, obviously their home state there. Let's see who else there. Governor Mark Gordon from the state of Wyoming. You're going to hear from him today on the show as well. Kansas was represented. Idaho. I think I got them all. At any rate, if I missed somebody, my apologies, but kind of going off the top of the head here. It was a great forum, covered a whole lot of stuff, and we bring you some of that flavor from Governor Gianforte and Governor Gordon there on location. Kind of get into about the GSC, why it's important. But before we do that, before we catch up with the governors, we're going to catch up with our Vice President Policy, Brent Miller, who's going to break it down. What the purpose of the GSC, what its intended purpose was, is, and then what it fills, the role it fills as part of this three-legged stool. You'll hear me reference here later between our different caucus groups, right? So Brent's going to come in and break that down, the start of all that, where we're at with it currently, and then I ended up getting some good time with some folks while out there in Vegas. So we're kind of gonna give you a twofer here. Again, focus here this week is the GSC, introducing you guys to our new chair, introducing you to Governor Gordon out there in Wyoming, who was gracious with his time there at our reception. But also got a chance through the Wyoming governor to meet with the new director of the state agency there in Wyoming, Angi Bruce. Had a great conversation with her. Probably could have done a whole feature show with her uh, on things going on, her new position as a director there in Wyoming, what's happening in Wyoming as far as conservation goes, as far as public perception versus conservation versus preservation, trends I've talked about before as far as our young people coming out of higher education that we so often um, invoke as the professionals. I'm doing the air finger quotes here. Um, when we're trying to make arguments to strengthen, to empower our state agency professionals as they advise us in the best science, so we can manage wildlife. Anyway, great conversation there. So Angi will join us here later. And then also got to catch up with uh, NSSF's Joe Bartozzi, who's been on the show before, and Brandon Maddox, South Central, and who also generously sponsored and supported our reception there at SHOT Show. So a few words from them, and that will round out the show. But again, kind of a twofer. It was really just some fun times, good atmosphere. You'll get a little flavor for that there at the after party, but, I guess, as I say, all that and more. Let's tee up, Brent. We'll hear from him, the governors, and then I'll catch up on the other side of that, and we'll go into some of the lighter fare. Stand by for Brent Miller. Let's go. All right, with this special here, with the governors coming on the program and, haven't been able to sit down with him at SHOT in Las Vegas, I wanted to bring on our vice president of policy one more time, at least this first quarter. We'll hear from Brent again down the line, no doubt. But have Brent come on and talk about the genesis of the Governor Sportsman's Caucus, what it does, as our leader Jeff Crane likes to say, the three-legged stool of CSF, and where it fits in. So, without further ado, Brent, welcome back to the program. Glad to have you again here in as many weeks. And yeah, give us the breakdown. How did the Governor Sportsman's Caucus come together? What does it do for NASC? What does it do for our caucus on the Hill? And how does it how does all this work together?
Yeah, Fran. Well, first, yep, thanks for having me back. Great to be here. And yeah, you rightfully hit on that three-legged stool. And I'll just back up a little bit. I'm sure most of our audience understands us as an organization at this point. But for any new listeners, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, we're a C3, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And we were set up specifically to support at that time a fledgling caucus on Capitol Hill, the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus. And that caucus has now grown, and there's over 250 members of Congress involved in it. But that was our first caucus program that we supported as an organization, and we were designated as the official support entity for that group. Through time, advanced 15 years, and the leadership of CSF at the time, including Jeff Crane, recognized that hey, most of the fish and wildlife management matters are being decided at the state level or not being decided on Capitol Hill. And so, let's take that model of the congressional caucus that's highly successful and bring that back down to the states and organize caucuses in each of the 50 states and unite them under a banner called the National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucuses. And that's our state legislative caucus program that we continue to support and manage to this day. And as of 2022, we officially did get to caucuses in all 50 states. And last year, we hit a high water mark with 2,502 legislators involved in that program. So there's over a third of all of the state legislators in the country are now involved in one of our NASC caucuses.
Huge.
And yeah, it's absolutely huge. Yeah, and then you get to the third leg of the stool, and why we're here today is our Governor Sportsman's Caucus. That was actually our most recent addition to the caucus network, and that was formed back in 2009. Really, again, most of these decisions are being made at the state level, but they're not all being made in the legislative arena. They're also being made through the agencies and through administrative decisions. And so we felt it was really important to also expand our support and our education programming out to state executives to make sure that they also had the information necessary to make informed decisions about the things that we care about. And the Governor's Sportsman's Caucus really acts as a vehicle to unite member caucuses and to encourage information exchange between states in much the same way that our NASC program does. But then here at CSF, we also spend a lot of time working between the Governor Sportsman's Caucus and the NASC caucuses, really just to make sure that if there's a Governor Sportsman's Caucus member in a state, that they're well connected with the NASC caucuses and that they're working collaboratively to advance the interests of sportsmen and women on the issues that they care about in their particular states.
And just hit on it, but I want to double back on it, and that this is a bipartisan uh, organization. It's like all the rest of our groups. And to that end, right now, we're sitting at 23 governors. We got new leadership in there. As having Governor Gianforte on the program this week, and talking about what that turnover from Governor Sununu here in New Hampshire. But if you look at our list, if again, always go to congressionalsportsman.org for these resources, guys. You can see the whole list, and you'll see I mean, heck, you got an ex vice presidential candidate on there. I mean, there's people from all over the country of different persuasions, all working together in tandem, and like you just said, connecting the dots between um, state legislative sportsman's caucus actions that are happening on the ground, and kind of making this all work together. And again, I find it very important to point out, just looking at a who's who on this list. And with that, I think last year we with the election cycle complete again, we did have some attrition. You want to speak to that, and where we're at goal wise, and any governors that might be listening or legislators that are listening, what how they can bring this up to their state house.
Yeah, that absolutely. So, yeah, we did end the year last year with 30 members in our Governor Sportsman's Caucus. And again, you hit on that really important part. It's a bipartisan caucus. CSF, we're a nonpartisan organization. All of the caucuses that we support are bipartisan. The issues that we work on ascend party lines and partisan politics. The outdoors is for everybody. So, really important part there. But yeah, so last year we did get to 30 governors, and we're hoping to get back there this year. We did lose 8 in the 2024 election cycle, with a lot of people just either being turned out or deciding not to run again, as was the case of our former co-chair there, Governor Kristen Sununu in New Hampshire. Um, and so we're at 23 now. We've picked up 1 as of Friday, the 31st. Happy to welcome the new Missouri governor into the fold. And we've got a lot of other prospects. We're having conversations with all of the new governors who've come into office, letting them know about the program and the resources that we have available to them. And yeah, we're hoping to get back up to 30 or more by the time the end of the year.
And the governors have an opportunity to play, I mean, a really great role here and really getting down to almost, a grassroots level at our events. They're always welcome. They are invited. We do reach out to their offices, understanding they have incredibly busy schedules, many of them. Um, so when they do come, it's great. The opportunity to have governor's offices join with us and celebrate National Hunting Fishing Day later on this year. Last year, we had 44 governors issue proclamations to include the White House to celebrate National Hunting Fishing Day with governors coming to their desk, bringing press in and celebrating that with signing ceremony. So there's a whole lot of good that can come out of a governor's office other than just being the figurehead, in addition to what you've already laid out. And, as the executives of our states, it's important for them to be forward facing, especially for our sporting community and especially, talking about those proclamations for National Hunting Fishing Day, the recognition of what those the sporting community does and those sportsmen dollars does and puts back into, um, conservation is a huge tip of the cap and not and is well-deserved recognition, and to have 44 of them come on last year and do that, as well again as the president, that's, not a small deal either.
Yeah, absolutely right, Fred. And I think that yeah, the interesting thing there is obviously we had way more governors issue proclamations than there are governors in the Governor Sportsman's Caucus. So yeah, I think that points to we at CSF we work with governors' offices all across the country on a variety of issues, regardless of whether they're in the Governor Sportsman's Caucus or not. But certainly the governor's a membership in the Governor Sportsman's Caucus does speak to the commitment that those governors have, not only to just issue proclamations, but also to really stand up for their sportsmen and women constituents in more meaningful and substantive ways and through the legislative or administrative processes.
Oh, fantastic. Again, thanks for your time, Brent, for coming on, explaining this stuff. It's just another layer of CSF and what we can do with our partners all over, state level, state house, corner offices, what have you. We're well entrenched and working on behalf and just trying to advance good sound conservation legislation for our community and stopping the bad stuff wherever it may come to our threshold and being proactive where we can as well. So it's exciting times and we've got a lot of folks working with us to include our governors, and we thank them for what they do for us, to include uh, our chair, Governor Gianforte, and the others who are joining us this week. So thank you for your time, Brent, and I'll return you to your day.
Very good. Thank you, Fred.
Live in the recording sense, anyway, from SHOT Show, Las Vegas, Nevada. Pleased to welcome in our newest chair, our leader of the Governor Sportsman's Caucus from the great state of Montana, Governor Greg Gianforte. Sir, thanks so much for making the time. I know you got a busy schedule.
Hey, Fred, it's good to be with you.
We're gonna jump right into it. Your time on the CSC, as we say, the largest bipartisan, bicameral body on the Hill. You spend time on the GSC, the CSC now, and the chair of the GSC. Compare and contrast the two, and from a governor's standpoint, how does working with CSF and our mission work comparatively?
Well, it's this our hunting and fishing heritage is so important. And in Montana, these are not activities, these are not hobbies. Hunting and fishing is literally who we are. This is why I've been so active in these groups. proud to tell you, in my office in the state capitol in Helena, Montana, I have 24 different species of taxidermy in my office, all harvested by me or somebody in my family.
Mhm.
This is where I spend my time, and it's literally our way of life.
No doubt. In such a sportsman's friendly environment, um, there's things you gotta weigh and work with the public on, not just specifically having that passion representing our community at large. One of those issues that comes up, and we saw just this very past election cycle, is ballot box biology. The work that was done in Colorado on Prop 127, handedly beaten at the ballot box, thank goodness. But you see different states like your state, you have this the ability to come in and be proactive in changing the the standard on that passage, that vote, so getting, further on. So right now, I can tell you in Maine, we've introduced, legislation to be proactive in their ballot initiatives process, specifically to wildlife management, right? So we're going off the science, with the best science we have on the ground by the professionals that you and your administration and the directors hire. Um, what does that look like in Montana? Is that something we can champion and thwart some of what happened in Colorado, so we're not wasting the taxpayers' time and treasure?
Well, I think wildlife decisions get made better at a local level. Our Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, our Fish and Game Commission, using the science, they make better decisions because they're closer to the problem.
Mhm.
Where we get into trouble is when bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., 2,000 miles away, try and dictate. We've seen this with the Endangered Species Act, and most recently in Montana, it's been the grizzly bear.
Mhm.
The biologists tell us the population's been at the maximum carrying capacity of the ecosystem for almost 20 years. And yet it's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never
Yeah,
leave.
sure.
We petitioned the federal government to delist them based on the science so that we could pass management back to the state. And then just in the final days of the Biden administration, they said, nice try, but no thanks.
Mhm.
And so the bear is still an endangered species jail. And it's just not right. Uh, we've made a real effort at the state to bring the stakeholders together. This means the conservation community, whether it's Rocky Mountain elk or Trout Unlimited, other groups with our sportsmen's organizations, along with landowners, because still,
Mhm.
even with the public land we have, a lot of the game is on private
Right.
ground. And what we found in prior legislative sessions, when we get the stakeholders at the table, we can find common sense solutions. This is why we've been working to expand access to our public lands, make sure we have healthy populations of the various species that we like to pursue. So I just think we have more in common than separates us. Where we have troubles is when bureaucrats in Washington try and dictate from 2,000 miles away how we should manage wildlife. There's nothing in the US Constitution that says anything about wildlife. And the 10th Amendment is very clear. Any right not
Mhm.
explicitly granted to the federal government is reserved for the states and the people. Therefore, I think wildlife should be managed at a local level.
Absolutely, and, to that end, like you said, your staff, your professionals are on the ground, they live it, literally breathing it, going out there, by extension, your sporting community who are reporting back by way of surveys, things they're witnessing on the ground, and then working in concert with your state agency, to be able to adjust seasons, bag limits in real time, as you guys often do, especially with, like, your mountain lions. You'll close off a section here, quota's been met or something's happening. Even where I'm from in New Hampshire, I see that news come out, and I'm fascinated by it, but that's because of the system that's
So,
in
Fred, here's
place.
the good news. In Montana, we can hunt big game 11 out of 12 months.
Mm.
The only month you can't hunt big game is July. And let me just tell you, the fishing is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. This is a great segue into my one of my last questions here, and that is, I have witnessed, because I've been out to your beautiful state numerous times, over the last decade plus, and things are changing in Montana, specifically coming out of COVID. Saw a lot of people leaving some of the metropolitan areas, some of the, different states, we'll call them, coming to your state for freedom, for space, for what they may have seen on TV and had this, romanticized idea of Montana, which most of it is very accurate. What challenge is that playing for you, specifically to wildlife management and conservation funding in your agency, when you have people that bring their metropolitan ideas, suburban challenges to a state like Montana to keep the status quo?
Well, it's been part driven by COVID. It's part been
Mhm.
driven by this show, Yellowstone.
Mhm.
Let me just tell you for the record, people ask me, "Hey, is that for real?" And I will just say the drama, not so much, but the scenery is legit.
Mhm.
It is an incredible way of life. 40% of our land is public for open for hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, climbing, whitewater rafting, whatever you want to do. The way of life is unsurpassed. And we've carved out Montana, and I think this is one of the best things. Montana is a sanctuary for freedom and the free market. And we have people flocking to Montana. It's put some raised some issues with housing affordability, but we've seen that nationwide. But we're finding people coming to Montana that love the Montana way of life, where people are judged based on their character, not what kind of car they drive. And that's the way we want to keep it.
So that's good news to hear that people are coming to your state and assimilating instead of bringing their bad ideas with them.
Montana is a home for freedom and the American dream. I'm proud of the fact through our pro business, pro family, pro jobs agenda that we've adopted, Montana was one of 2 states where wage growth has exceeded inflation over the last 4 years. We're proud of that because it's creating better opportunities for those who choose to live there.
Mhm. Your predecessor, Governor Chris Sununu of my home state of New Hampshire, when he decided not to run again for a 5th term, which would have been a record in our state, we had a conversation. That means you're not gonna be our chair anymore for the Governor's Sportsmen's Caucus, and, who do you think could carry on your common sense way of governing and communicating with people and immediately? Governor Gianforte came to us, and he said the same thing you just said, leading with common sense and having these common sense conversations and utilizing the systems that are in place. How does that make you feel? You know the governor. Well,
Well, I have a lot of respect for Chris. He's done a great job. I'm sorry he didn't run for re-election
me
again. But he's done a great job leading your state. And this is an obligation we have. This is one of the reasons why. One of the things I did when I came into office, I started a governor's youth hunting story contest.
mhm,
And this is open to kids 10 to 17. We have an apprentice huntership program in Montana where you can start at age 10 as long as you're with an adult. And we opened it up. And every year we solicit applications from these young people. They have to harvest something illegally in the state. Could
mhm.
be a gopher, could be a duck, could be a coyote, could be a doe, a bull, a cow, elk, whatever it is. Take a good picture and write a little essay about the experience. And we have hundreds and hundreds of applicants every year.
Mm.
We're going to do the event next week. We get Kennetrek, they give us boots. Stone Glacier, they give us backpacks. Rocky Mountain
Oh,
Elk gives us swag. The one of our retailers there gives us a nice high-end hunting rifle. The outfitters give us a fully guided turkey hunt.
mm.
We're gonna have them all in the Capitol next week for a wild game feed. These young kids and their parents, we're gonna feed them and we're gonna trick them out. And it's part of our obligation to promote this hunting and fishing way of life and raise up that next generation. So working with the Sportsmen's Caucus just makes a lot of sense because it's all part and parcel of making we preserve our hunting and fishing heritage for the next generation.
sir, is there one issue, aside from the ESA that you referenced earlier and grizzly bears there in Montana? Um, is there one issue that presents a more of a challenge than others, or maybe a perennial issue in the state of Montana that
Let me just say, I was in the Capitol yesterday for the inauguration, and I'm thrilled to see this new administration coming in, particularly with Doug Burgum going to Interior. We've had trouble with the U.S. Wildlife Service. It's been a problem. We have trouble. I'm thrilled that Brooke Rollins is going to be at Department of Ag, overseeing the Forest Service.
Mhm.
We've had trouble managing our forests because the federal government has not done a very good job. So I'd say lands management in the West, in particular, has been an issue. I hope I know this new administration because I know many of them. I served with Doug as governor, Christie when she was in Congress, and then now at Homeland Homeland Security. Brooke Rollins going to be at Ag. they'll at least return our phone calls. It's been 4 years in the desert where we can't even get a return phone call, and they're making decisions from Washington, D.C. about how we do grazing on our public lands, wildlife management issues of U.S. Wildlife Service. We can't even get a return phone call. I've spent most of the last 4 years suing the federal government to get them to do their job. So this is a welcome day in America for a lot of reasons, but for wildlife management and public lands management, particularly important.
And again, as we started out saying, these are bipartisan issues. Issues of conservation shouldn't have a political affiliation assigned to it because we all enjoy our natural resources in one way or another. We all like to do it. Your state's ecotourism driven. My state is ecotourism driven. How we consume those natural resources may be philosophical differences, but we all do and we all enjoy it. Um, so it's kind of disingenuous for people either on the Hill or in your state capitals to hold to a dogma just to do it, just to hold some line, and they do themselves a disservice by doing so. You guys seem to be doing it right out there, and many of our states do. You started to allude to the current administration bringing in governors for new cabinet level positions, which leaves us in a deficit on the Governor Sportsman's Caucus. So, message out to your fellow governors about the caucus and why they should, why a common sense decision is to join and be active in the caucus.
Well, I think it's important work, and I'm thrilled to be involved.
Yeah, well, we're definitely glad to have you. We're excited to work with you going forward. Um, lots of victories to be had, I think, coming forward, and we're all certainly excited at the foundation. Parting thoughts while we have a couple more minutes.
Well, we're here at the SHOT Show.
Hmm.
Let me just say we have 150 firearms and ammunition manufacturers in Montana, more per capita than any other state in the country. And we're here at this show to recruit more. We've passed legislation in the state that makes it illegal to discriminate against firearms companies in the provision of banking services. We passed a law to protect the Second Amendment so that if the feds pass laws that violate the Second Amendment, our local law enforcement does not have to enforce them. So we're going to defend our Second Amendment rights and our hunting heritage in Montana. And I just think I moved there 30 years ago to raise my family. And it was the most awesome decision I made in my life for our family. We've raised our 4 kids there, and I'm in the woods every time I can.
Amen. Well, one last thought I had, and I wanted to touch on it, and we'll let you go. The recent events in California have not, if not anything, proven that we need to trust our managers in forest management and the deficiencies they're experiencing, unfortunately. Um, your state has that problem with managing and people coming out against sound science and wildlife forest management. We just rolled out our new policy, policy portfolio, and a new director, so we're very excited to engage. But with that tragedy, I think we have an opportunity to help clean up those forests and do good management. Your thoughts before you leave?
Well, we just need cooperation from the federal
Yep.
government. The state of Montana manages about 5 million acres that's state-owned. They're well-maintained. We reduce the fuel load, we enhance the habitat, it's available for recreation, everybody wins. We have a lot of federal land. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you one experience I had this last year. The Forest Service has been derelict in their duties. The head of the Forest Service for Region 1 that we're in, uh, we got a commitment from them that they would aggressively fight fire. And it's just easier to put out small fires than it is big fires. We think we should be more aggressive with forest management,
Mhm.
reducing the fuel loads and creating jobs and enhancing habitat. Everybody wins. They said they would. And then we caught them this year sitting on their hands watching fires burn.
Mm.
And the head of the Forest Service said, and I quote, monitoring is full suppression. Uh,
Mm.
frankly, I don't think that person should work at the Forest Service.
Yeah, that's a weird way to
And
put.
I'm thrilled to see new leadership come in so that we can have more of a collaborative relationship because it has been awful.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and your residents of that great state deserve better. So
We have a forest health crisis because the federal government, particularly the U.S. Forest Service, is incompetent.
yeah, well, there you go, sir. I appreciate your time. I know you're on a tight
Pleased to be
schedule.
with you.
Thanks for
Enjoy
being
the
here.
SHOT Show.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch very soon, and you got the governor's forum, so we're looking forward to that. All right, sir. Thank you. All right, our SHOT Show live coverage continues. I'm joined by the governor of the great state of Wyoming, Governor Gordon, who spoke on the governor's panel earlier today. Sir, thanks for giving us a couple minutes of your time.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Sportsmen's Caucus is just a great organization.
What you guys didn't get to get into it too much in the panel, but I was curious. What challenges for sportsmen and women are you guys facing in Wyoming right now?
Wyoming, we love our outdoors, and we don't really have that many challenges with Second Amendment or hunting. There's always a little bit of noise around the edges, but one of the things I think on a national stage is, yeah, we've won the election. I think we have a much more friendly administration to sportsmen everywhere. But we can't let up off the kettle, because it is time that we make this a more permanent prior recognition of how important and it is to be able to hunt, protect ourselves with our weapons, and make sure to just have the fun to go shoot.
All right, is that there? Now, you work with Barry, so God bless you. But proactive fellow, one of our strong teammates, and this year for us on our state level organization, really come out strong, not being on our heels, but being more proactive with legislative initiatives and policies and championing that in the state houses. We have issues from license reimbursements to below you ballot initiative and are working against that. Kind of speak to the value of those legislative sportsmen's caucuses and how they interact with your office to get good stuff done.
It's always helpful to have the Sportsman Caucus kind of understand what's going on elsewhere. I'll tell you one issue we're seeing in Colorado is they want to make sure that you have a magazine, but it has to be permanently attached to your weapon. It's supposed to make it safer. How stupid is that? How are you going to empty your gun? Sorry. Those kinds of things that just hear and then pop up from time to time. We're all working nationally to make sure that nobody can discriminate against folks for selling firearms. We want to make sure that we have, a good presence on that. And in our part of the country, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, Nebraska, New York, and South Dakota, we're pretty solid on our Second Amendment. But to hear stuff that happens elsewhere in the country and know that the Sportsmen's Caucus is there and engaged with Congress, that's absolutely essential.
It's essential. And then the governor's offices play such a vital role between those state legislative bodies, what's happening now with the CSE on the Hill, and just if the whole thing works really well together, and we've seen that bear fruit. And especially so this last election cycle, where we had a lot of hostile stuff coming our way at the state level, with the presidential election cycle, and we had way more victories than we had, against us.
Oh yeah, and it's good to celebrate, but I learned a long time ago, don't celebrate and get a hangover. And make sure you keep working. So
yes, sir. Well, look, it's a big party here. We're having our CSF reception. I thank you for your time. I'll return you. There's plenty of people that are waiting to shake their hand and talk to you. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you to our first three guests, the governors. Brent, for breaking that down. I hope we got a better feel for the GSC from Brent, kind of setting the groundwork there, setting the table as it were. And then it's again, my appreciation for the time with Governor Gianforte, Governor Gordon there. Shot is a monster, as I said. So they're busy. Obviously both governors are talking to partners, business opportunities, recruiting business to their states and why their states are good for it. I mean, so to get some time with them is very much appreciated, and the work they do on the GSC as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, let us go to our friends and state partner. So we're going to go to Angi Bruce from Wyoming, and then bring you guys once again Mr. Joe Bartozzi, Mr. Brandon Maddox, board members, partners, supporters of CSF. We'll just have a couple quick conversations there, give you a little flavor for the night, and then we'll call it a show. So part two, let's go. It's the crowd's lightening up, so it's getting a little easier to speak.
Okay.
All right, cool. Right now, Angi Bruce, Director of Game and Fish in the great state of Wyoming.
Yes, the great state of Wyoming, definitely.
Just had your governor in here a little bit ago. It was a pleasure to speak to him. what is new and exciting at the state agency in Wyoming?
Well, we have lots going on. First of all, I'm newest director. I've only been in the position since September, so a lot is for me. However, not new to the state. I've been in Wyoming for 8 years and was deputy director for 5 years. So most of the issues I'm familiar with, it's just a different role now. Being able to lead what I call is the best game and fish agency in the nation. I'm originally from Iowa. I spent 20 years there, first part of my career. But I chose to make the big jump and go to Wyoming because it's really a wildlife biologist dream to work there. We're very fortunate. We have lots of struggles. Grizzly bears, as you mentioned earlier, wolves issues. But if we take a step back, we're lucky because we get to work on those things.
Oh, yeah.
They're in the state and there are challenges, yes, every single day, but we have so that is just incredible.
So you bring an interesting perspective, and maybe we can talk about this. And you talk about educating and then the different opportunities. How do you work with the general public that looks at charismatic predators like wolves and bears and just can't reconcile the need for scientific-based wildlife management on those species, many of which are recovered? We don't have to get into politics of that, but just working with the public and educating from an agency standpoint.
Excellent. I think Wyoming's unique in that because the people who live in Wyoming have a general passion and love for the state, but then the wildlife too. I really haven't seen it anywhere else. They truly treasure and value what we have to offer. In fact, ever since becoming director, I'm like a celebrity, believe it or not. I can go to our neighboring states like Colorado and nobody thinks about it. But in Wyoming, people put such high value on what we have that it's pretty incredible. And it's a balance, right? To have these iconic species, but to coexist with the people and live in the same environment is hard. And it's difficult. And it often means compromise to find a way to make it work. But I think we found that balance in the state, especially with our wolf population. We definitely have a very unique management that has been able to, in my view, be an extreme conservation success story that we're very proud of.
And it's great. Every time a species is recovered and you bring that carrying capacity of the landscape to optimal levels and it balances, that's good for them. It's good for the prey species, the non-game species, the whole web, right? Plus the people that like it, enjoy it, put all that value on it.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. Right now we're in our legislative session, and there's a bill that's pretty simple for debate regarding our river otters. And it's removing them from the state protected list into the non-game status. It does not mean they're at a point that we're going to hunt and trap them, but what it tells me is it's success.
Right.
When you get a species that you're able to do, what this bill will do is it'll give the game and fish the ability to help manage conflict. And we know when species get to a certain level, conflict starts to happen. And to be able to build up positive relationships with that species, so to build support for it growing across the state, we have to have the tools to deal with conflict. But some folks might view this as harm to the otter. What is no longer protected? And actually, we should be celebrating it as a success.
Yeah, exactly right. And otters are a great example of the uneducated, ignorant public. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's just they just don't know, right? They're not wonky like you and I are about it. But they would be surprised to know, some of the people that are at a detriment because of river otters are your fly fishermen, your cold water species fishermen, because those otters get in there and do what otters are going to do, and they do a good job of eating fish. And when you have a lot of ecotourism out there, people are coming to fish those beautiful waters for those beautiful different species of trout, that's a problem.
You're exactly right. And as you know, if humans were no longer on the landscape, you could manage wildlife for wildlife. But we don't. The state has charged us to manage wildlife for the people of the state. And to do that, there has to be that coexistence and balance. And this is a prime example of we are managing them for the social economic balance with people. And that is sometimes difficult for folks to understand. But it's wildlife management. It isn't wildlife to anything you want.
It's not put a glass bowl over it and watch it like a zoo. That's just not what it is. As a director, and you're new in the position, I wonder, it's something I've been bringing up for the last few years when I talk about, especially when I go to a state house and I testify, in favor of a commissioner board retaining their authority in states where you can do that, right? Do you guys have a commissioner board in Wyoming?
Yes.
Do they rule set?
One-person commission.
Okay, so it's important to have them, right? Because there's that balance. It doesn't end up having a political slant to it or anything like that. So I often will invoke a line saying that, we trust our biologists, our professionals that come out of school, they're better, they're hired, executive director will, go through the process. My asterisk on that in the last few years has been there's a philosophical switch in higher education. And these young professionals are coming out, it seems, I'm seeing this trend. The conservationist that's coming out really has a preservationist philosophically embedded in their head from what they're getting their post undergrad. And we're hiring them, but they've never really had field experience and understand how hunting works in that 7 tenets of scientific wildlife management, the American system. What's your thoughts there?
I think you said that very well. That's definitely a trend we're seeing. And it's a lot of it is about education, right? Exposing that new generation to actual management. And sometimes for those folks, it takes them going through those issues. If we go one extreme, the other side screams. And if you go that extreme, the other side screams. So we often find ourselves in this middle place, a problem-solving arena. But it's a growing challenge. The more, as we know, people are disconnected from the land, the more we see this. And so it isn't that people's intentions are bad, it's just a lack of understanding.
No, right?
Yeah.
Opportunities abound in Wyoming. Talk to me about what you guys got going on. I mean, obviously, you get, the big ungulate species out there, stuff you can't get in the east are out there, but non-resident coming in, what should I be doing? I'm a turkey hunter, so I know I gotta do something in Wyoming. Get me a nice
Definitely. Look at turkey hunting in Wyoming. It's not our prime species that people come to the state for. But my favorite and what I think is unique about Wyoming is our antelope hunt. For me, when you hunt antelope, it's really about a predator-prey relationship. And so that's why it's very intriguing for me. And we have the largest population, in the United States. So come to Wyoming, experience a different kind of hunt with the antelope.
over-the-counter tags? Over-the-counter tags for antelope for non-resident? Or do I gotta do a lottery?
Yeah, there is definitely some limitation to resident versus non-resident. And it could take you a while, depending on where.
Okay.
Definitely a lottery. But if you talk to our local game wardens, conservation folks, you'll find those places in the state that you'll be surprised you could maybe get it your first year.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's on my list for sure. Director Bruce, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the work you're doing and working together with us.
Great. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Bartozzi steps in our little podcast booth here at the CSF reception at the SHOT Show. This is a hell of a show you guys put on.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. The amount of work that goes into this show is great, but the results are even better. 55,000, 53,000 people coming here. Biggest show in terms of square footage we ever had. So we're very excited about the way things are going.
Now, I want to make sure I got this right. Did it expand from last year to another part of the property, or is this maybe a...
No, we kind of repurposed some of the areas.
Yeah.
We shrunk some of the common areas. We repurposed the supplier showcase for an extra 2 days of actual exhibitors and shot extra. So that gave us more net square footage by reconfiguring aisles and changing the view thing. But we're in the same basic space as we were last year.
and every bit of the space seems to be utilized.
Every bit of space. It's
Phenomenal, and quite frankly, I had no idea this many firearms manufacturers and companies just existed. It's phenomenal. It's great, and just to know that there's that much opportunity, there's that much industry out there. I mean, it really speaks to the demand, not just at home but abroad too.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're seeing is these companies, especially the small up-and-coming companies, they're having an opportunity to show their new products, their existing products, to customers from all over the world. We get people here from over 100 countries, whether it be law enforcement, military, consumers, sporting market, the hunting market. And so one year you could have a small booth with a niche product. Next year it could take off like gangbusters. So that's the beauty of the SHOT Show, and you just never know what's going to happen.
And as soon as you guys close the doors, planning starts in earnest for the next year. Right.
Well, we already started for next year. Oh no, before we even left Connecticut, we were already working on next year's show, because you have for this, the order of the scale of this show needs to be planned 12 months in advance.
I mean, in the show world, people always talk about clean shows. This is a pure clean show. There's not any non-endemic display anywhere in these hooks out.
We do, our team does an outstanding job of screening every person that applies for a badge to get in here. Why? We could sell 1 million badges if consumers were to come in here, but this is really a business-to-business show. We're trying to allow our members, our exhibitors, I should say, to conduct business with buyers, to conduct interviews with media, to get their product out into the market without it being a gun show per se. So, I mean, that's just the nature. That's our board is convinced that that's the best approach. I agree with them. Otherwise, I could sell 1 million tickets, but that's not going to help business, because we can't, there's just too many people to discuss substantive business.
And it's working.
And it's working. And by leaps and bounds. And the people that are coming, the exhibitors that are coming, more and more applications to exhibit here every year, demonstrate the relevancy of SHOT Show, and the model is sound and it's working.
You mentioned it's a B2B show. Do you see from the advocacy side and the education on policy, is there a demand for that here? I mean, I know there's some forums, and the governor's forum earlier today. Is there a panel of interest here from a lot of the PACs? Or
actually, yeah. I mean, we get thousands of SHOT Show attendees every year, and this year is no different, that attend our SHOT University classes. And the governor's forum was nice, but all throughout the week, there are classes in how to run your business, how to be more compliant in your business. We have a session on suicide prevention with some of our partners in the Veterans Administration. And so, I mean, it's all type of things. Our course catalog is full this week, and we do get thousands of participants. So that's another part of the show, right? Yes, you get to demonstrate your products, but you also get to learn. Supplier Showcase was a good example. We had more than 600 vendors to the industry demonstrate on Monday and Tuesday their products, their processes, their materials. And so companies can send their engineers, their quality control folks up there and find out what's state of the art in the manufacturing process for components of firearms. Again, a great educational opportunity to conduct business, but also to learn what's happening in the market.
It's fantastic. Fans coming in. I'm not sure when we see you next. We're going to see you in May. We see you first, the clay shoot.
The clay shoot, I'll be there in May, yeah.
Very good. Well, we'll leave it at that. I'll see you in May for one of the finest months of the year, only because I love chasing turkeys. And I'll return you to the show, the reception. But thanks for stopping in.
I really appreciate it, Brent.
Thanks for everything you do for us.
Well, thank you.
All right, sir. The party continues. And now our reception sponsor, the board member, Mr. Brent Maddox, freaking flyer now on the program. Thanks for leaving the party for a couple minutes and coming to say hello.
Oh, heck yeah, absolutely. Big group here.
Yeah, it's huge. Not a lot of space to wiggle around, but we got a couple good spots, so we'll take it.
Like it. This is cool.
Well, the place to sit down, being on your feet at this show, it's a monster.
Yeah, you're right, totally.
So how's the show treating you? How's business?
Show's been great. Get to meet a lot of different people, get to touch base people you really only see once a year, so that's good. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I feel like business is good. Everyone likes to talk about silences, so it's been fun.
Yeah. Got some legislation moving on the Hill recent days concerning silencers.
Yeah.
Care to leave a comment there?
You know, one thing that we're open to do is to bring that bill back from last year where the tax stamp money would go towards, conservation. So that'd be a good one. We like that. Um, we're glad to see the Area Protection Act go, back and be viable. I just, feedback we're getting is it's probably going to be tough to get 60 votes in the Senate for that one. But I think that just talking about the Area Protection Act gets people more aware that we can shoot suppress. So I think it helps us. So if it doesn't pass, it just gets education out there, which is helpful.
And I think here, election cycle is done and over with. Results are here. We're living in them in real time. But I think what we got out of that is the ability to listen and learn again, not just look at something like a silencer, a very simple tool, but this default boogeyman mechanism that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
Now people are willing, I think, to listen to reason, maybe even have a common sense conversation about it does nothing other than make your experience way better and protect your ears.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's still a big educational play.
Yeah.
The analogy I usually use is it's not what I lead with when I go to school and introduce myself to my kids' news teacher for the year that I sell silencers. So there's definitely a educational component. Even we have people come work in our warehouse and, they come to a tour. If they're not pro gun, they look up there and they're like, wow, there's 100,000 silencers here. What in the world would Americans need that many for? So it's definitely an educational opportunity for us about the benefits to the shooter and for hunting.
Yeah. What's 2025 looking like for you? And kind of the same, or are you in some big projects coming?
25 is good. We're starting to partner with some more e-commerce websites that want to sell silencers, and then we would help do the fulfillment use our infrastructure to be able to ship it to their customer's front door. So that's new and exciting for us, for a new channel. I think the rest of the gun industry is down quite a bit. Typically, when you get a Republican in office, it doesn't necessarily help sales. People don't feel like they're going to lose any rights, but I think silencers are still kind of new, and approval times are still quick. ATF during the SHOT Show here mentioned it's about a 20-day on average. So 20 days to get approved to buy a silencer is just amazing when it used to be 10 months or a year now. So we think that's going to continue to drive more demand, just a quick turnarounds.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take it, and that's certainly a vast improvement on, like you said, where it was, and you hope the good word can continue to spread. I like to think that, our community, our population, and even people that are interested in it, maybe don't look at the results of the election as, oh, we're safe, right? I mean, I don't want to sit here and provide fear buying, right? That's not it. It's just, again, it's a common sense thing. The world's weird. We went through a weird part of, the pandemic and all that craziness. And I think people's personal ability to defend themselves, to train on different systems, all of it combined, it's not as demonized, I think, as it once was. People are waking up to that.
Yeah, totally. And I think what helps too is you just got more people using suppressors, and then their friends use them, and it just becomes more commonplace. So I think it's headed in the right direction.
That's exactly right. The more commonplace it is, the less the taboo sticks, right? Awesome. Well, look, I'll return you back to the party. It's a fun night. Thank you for support. Thank you for your leadership. New position on the board.
Yeah, excited about that.
I got the checkbook.
Yeah, I know. Makes me nervous. That's all I got to sit down and learn all this stuff. So it's good. Keeps me on my toes.
Very good. There he is, Brandon Maddox. Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks to all of the guests for this special episode here.
Man, if you've not been out to Vegas for that show, that SHOT Show, whew, do it at least once, especially if you're in the space, if you're a part of the sporting community that interests you. As you heard Joe say, they don't just let anyone in. There is a process. Does come with a price tag there too. So, do your homework going in there. But if you are going for the first time, you do want to get ahead of it because it is a bit of a process to get there. Just get your credentials. Never mind actually getting out there. I'm excited to have Governor Gianforte at the head of the caucus there. Just a straight shooter and someone that really champions our community, the conservation community, the sporting community.
like right after, I want to say the day or two after, got back got back from Vegas there. Governor was right on the socials to talking, showing and demonstrating the kids stories program that he's got there, the hunting stories, like within hours of us having that conversation. It was pretty cool. And just that he celebrates that, and Governor Gordon as well. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily, I don't want to say easier because that's not the right word, but you have these states like a Wyoming or Montana, to an extent, because definitely, as we kind of got into with Governor Gianforte, the demos have changed a bit out west, right? Especially from COVID, people leaving um, states like California, New York, and immigrating to big sky country, big beautiful Rocky Mountain country, right? Where generally it's like a default, like yeah, outdoor pursuits, conservation, shooting sports, et al. Are part of their cultural makeup, and you wouldn't question that, right? So even though, like I say, I acknowledge some of those trends may be changing, nothing alarmist yet. But I wonder if like it's easier to be as vocal and front facing on our issues as it would in, say, like a Massachusetts, um, a New Jersey, something like that, right? And holy smokes, I mean, even in some of some parts of Tennessee and Kentucky are starting to change. It used to be, again, a very commonplace, but politics, demographics, or socioeconomic demographics are changing. So with those changes comes opinion changes, right? So anyway, just thinking out loud here as I'm reliving the show, the program here. Um, for them, it's nice. It's got to be great to be able to just own that who they are out there, and have the support for those initiatives, and do what they do. Again, juxtaposed to out here in the east, or even the northwest, where um, public opinion obviously matters, and has sway, and maybe keeps some leadership that could either just be indifferent or does support our community and keeps them quiet, right? Anyway, again, just thinking out loud, but I do appreciate both the governor's time, yeah, and joining us here on the show. I really enjoyed catching up with the director there in Wyoming, Angie Bruce. Excited to have her on as a new director. I know they're busy out there for this legislative session. Um, and I'm sure we'll be bringing you updates on our weekly roundup uh, from the West, from Marie New Miller, as things happen on the ground there. Super engaging. Really enjoyed the conversation. Not afraid to kind of go after those controversial, I'm doing the air finger quotes again, um, items, and hit them head on with just the standard, right? And that's what I really, really appreciated about her is, we can acknowledge changes in public perception. We can acknowledge the changes that we're seeing coming out of higher education with our professionals, and recognize there may be deficiencies, and get on that now, so it doesn't, give us a generation or two of professionals deep into how we manage wildlife. So Wyoming, it sounds like you got a good one, and definitely looking forward to hearing more from Director Bruce there, and things out of Wyoming. And it's always good to catch up, like I said earlier, with our partners, board members, and just great champions of conservation and the shooting sports, and legacy, and heritage, and Mr. Bartozzi and Maddox, and thank them for coming on as well. So that's it. Um, Thank you guys for coming along. Thank you. If you didn't hear the news from the roundup this week, we were for the nerds that follow this stuff, especially me. I got it. I mean, I'm not doing my job if I'm not. But there are these charts, right? It's like for those of us that remember the old Billboard 100 when that mattered. Um, you get on the Billboard Top 100, you're doing something right in the music space. Well, we have similar charts in the podcasting world that are broken down by demo. So the wilderness category is where a lot of your conservation, shooting sports, hunting, fishing tales occur. and happen. It's very competitive. It's very crowded. The ranking starts at 200 and then goes to number 1. This week we placed number 4. Like I say, jokingly sometimes, with a lot of humility, but knowing the purpose that we serve and how important this program is, our little show was number 4 on the charts and still is as of this recording, which is fantastic. So we're celebrating here internally with the team. We're celebrating with our current guests, our past guests for their contributions, but most importantly, to you folks. Um, you guys that are finding this program, that are listening, that are hitting play, maybe you hit pause and you come back to it later in your day and you hit play again. Maybe you're listening to me at 1.5 speed just to get the information, which I don't recommend. I've done it and it is maddening. I think I talk slow. Maybe I don't. Maybe being from the Northeast, I tend to talk faster than some. On 1.5 speed, you don't want to go there. That's you will, your mind will literally blow. Anyway, however you're consuming this, however you're engaging in this program, thank you. You guys are making this thing work and grow and putting it by your participation, your downloads, your star ratings, your comments, your subscription, you know, your follows, whatever the platform is. So you're getting the notification that there's a new program every Wednesday and every other Thursday for these features. You guys are helping us get out there and tell our story of what we do at CSF, what our caucus groups do, like this particular one, what the Governor Sportsman's Caucus does, and hell, do people even know it exists? Some of you are going to find out that it does, and that half the country right now has pro sportsmen's governors in those governors' offices. That should be empowering to folks there in your community that this stuff matters to you. But all that to say again, big giant thank you. And, don't let up. All right, so now we're here. We're getting some nice limelight here. Um, let's stay forward facing, front facing. Let's stay in the game, as it were, by continuing to share these episodes socially if you're so inclined. And again, just the engagements. And s- definitely a number of you are finding this to be a good resource. The topics we may talk about weekly in our news roundup. I'm not gonna say like the specifics are evergreen, but the topics are evergreen, and we're dealing with them throughout the country. So you can, if you're a legislator, you're listening. If you're in the executive branch of your state and you're listening, some of these things are specific to a session, but rest assured they do come back up over and over and over again in one form or another. So this stuff is cataloged where you listen to your podcast, whatever that platform is. You go get it. Go find that conversation about wildlife conservation funding, the American system of conservation funding, the American system of wildlife management, all of it, right? I mean, you can go generally if we've got a position paper, an issue briefing on a subject. Chances are, since this show started in third quarter, fourth quarter of 23, we probably got something to say on a topic. So use us. It's free. None of this costs you any money. So just the subscriptions, the following, all of it is free. And I hope it's helping. Your participation is helping. And again, just thank you. I'm kind of blown away by the growth we've seen here recently. So let's keep it going. Whew. That's it. That's this week's show. Thanks again, as always, for tuning in. We will see you next Wednesday, as always, for our weekly news roundup. We're in the thick of things here across the country. Lots of legislation moving, lots of good stuff. Plenty of cause for concern. We're going to bring that stuff to you. Give you guys a extra week to digest this and any of your other episodes you haven't gotten to. You hit pause, never went back to. Go back to them, check them out. Finish up those programs, and then we will see you in 2 weeks from this drop. And we'll do it all again. Got some great stuff lined up for you. Headed out to during the off week here. Headed to DC for our changing of the guard reception. 119th Congress was sworn in last month, so we have new leadership. We're going to bring you some of those folks in a future episode. And then it's on to Nashville to support our partners at the NWTF, Nashville Wild Turkey Federation. Their annual convention and sport show is going on. And if you're there and you see me, come say hi. But got a couple special episodes that we are going to be recording for some stuff we're going to announce here down the line very soon, but can't go any further than that. And hopefully be able, if I can talk, to bring you sounds and some excitement and flavor of what is one of the coolest shows um, in the outdoor conservation space to go to. And again, another one, if you've never been to NWTF convention, that's 100% one you got to get to, and it's well positioned there in Nashville, where that central hub. It's pretty easy to fly to, or for a lot of the population centers to drive to. Vegas, maybe not so much, but it works for them, so they keep doing it. And we keep showing up, so good for shot. But yeah. So hopefully to bring you some sound and some fresh episodes out of this week's trip. So if you're traveling, be safe. If you're going to DC, if I see you in DC, looking forward to it. If I see you in Nashville, holler at me, say hello. We'll talk turkey. That's it. Until next week, y'all be safe. As always, CSS, stumbling and bumbling, too much talking. As always, CSF is your inside connection to outdoor legislation. Thanks for having us so long. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.